Well, hello. How's it going? I hope you are having a great day. It's Cherie from Big Notes Get Votes. If you don't know me, I am a pro singer and a vocal coach, and I run a vocal flex called Big Notes Get Votes. And hopefully you are seeing this happening here on YouTube, Facebook, and on the page, and in one of my VIP groups, and also on Instagram, which is up there. So you'll have to excuse me because I've got, as usual, a very precarious setup with my computer right in front of me and then the Insta there. So if it looks like I'm looking in all sorts of weird directions, you know why. The reason that we're here today on this Wednesday afternoon at around about 2 o'clock is something that I'm doing every week as part of the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan, which is a review of the last week's steps. Now, if you don't know what the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan is, let me tell you, it's 30 days worth of tips that you can action for under 30 minutes, like really super fast, because, you know, we need those little micro practices or micro habits in our lives that you can use to support, develop, nurture, boost, all of them words, your voice, your creative and your mental and physical well-being, because of course your voice is housed in your body. So the way that you think about yourself, the way that you feel, and how your body and of course the actual instrument itself, the larynx, is feeling is huge in contributing towards confidence in your ability as a creative and as a singer. So I've covered a couple of weeks worth of tips. The first week's very vocal health focused. The second week is very daily ritual focused. So building those habits and locking them in. And you can go back and have a look either on the Facebook page or on Instagram or also on YouTube as well too, to see these tips. They're all there, all 30 are there already, but I'm going to focus on this last week, and we are looking at day 16 to day 22. If I look down there, it's just because I've got my little notes. In fact, I've got a little calendar where I write all the tips down, and a lot of it is actually for me, because I really need to have a bit of a routine. And so I've always done this, and I started some years ago doing it, and then usually like April, September, I roll it out again. And it's a reminder for me. It's a reminder for you if you need it. And as it turns out, with the pandemic and everything that we have going on in the world, it's really nice to be able to focus on some small things that we can do every day to look after ourselves and our voice in particular. So that's the intro. That's my rant over and done with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just chat you through some of them. This week is very focused on the technique elements of getting better as a singer. So we've looked at vocal health care, which is very important. If you don't have vocal health, your instrument cannot perform and operate in the way that it's most optimal for it. Daily habits and rituals, which is week 2's focus, help you to really integrate some of those micro practices in, and the key ones. And this week, we're really talking about shifting the dial. And so day 16 is, the focus is having a practice plan. Now, I'm a huge kind of routine person. Sometimes creatives are not, whether they realize it or not. They actually are, because everything has a system and a process and a flow to it. We call sometimes creative flow. And all I want us to do is to harness that flow state all the time by being really clear as to what it is that we're going to be focusing on when we do our practices. And the sequence for practice for me looks like starting off with checking in with how you're feeling by just jotting down a few notes in your vocal journal about how your voice is feeling before the practice, how it's feeling in general, how you're feeling, and maybe really solidifying what your goals are for the practice. If you're using a vocal journal and you're planning your vocal goals and then kind of breaking them down into baby steps and technique focus, then you can have an opportunity to pop that into your practice plan and have a really structured and focused approach to how you're going to spend your time. So that is what I call the practice plan. It usually consists of that vocal journaling or checking in with the plans for the time that you've got, however long that is. And by the way, 15 to 60 minutes, 3 times a week if you're starting out is really, really great. If you have more vocal stamina or you're a little bit more an intermediate to an advanced or a pro singer, you can absolutely tailor it based on what your outcome is or what you're working towards. So say you are working to keep your baseline vocal fitness up and running and just looking after your voice, you could do 15 to 60 minutes 3 times a week, no worries. And you would focus on always waking up your voice or releasing tension from your voice with a siren, singer's stretches first and foremost, checking in with your posture just to make sure that you've got that neutral spine and that your frame for your instrument is where it's meant to be and feeling good. And you can troubleshoot if you need to by stretching out any areas that might be holding some tension. And you can also, with your siren, check in and make sure that, it kind of sets the tone. It tells you how, maybe how long you need to warm up for, if there's any tiredness or fatigue coming through. It really does give you an insight into how the practice might unfold. Following on with your plan, you would maybe check in with your breathing if that is a focus for you. And for my artists, what we focus on is always releasing tension first. That's the primary thing. And I'll talk about that in a second when we talk about looking at a breath management plan. The next thing we would work on is we would warm up our voices. Now, if you've already done your sirens, then you would work on to maybe sirening through a song or sirening through a piece of music. And I feel that the best vocal warm-ups are when you're actually singing the songs that you're about to sing, but in a slightly less intense way, which we're going to talk about in a little second as well. And basically, all of the things that I'm going to go into depth with are the detailed version of what is outlined in the practice plan. So you warm up your voice, and then you focus on a particular technique. So whatever that is for you, it might be that breath focus or breath management is where you're looking at, or it might be that you're working on agility or particular voice qualities, whatever it is that you need to spotlight. Because we have so many moving parts in our singing, when we practice, just focus on one thing at a time. So don't worry, like if you're working on your breath management, don't worry about pitch, don't worry about phrasing, rhythm, voice qualities, nothing. Just work on the breath and think about what it is that you need to be doing to release tension first and foremost, and then making sure that you have the right breath for the task at hand. And usually management or conservation is most people's goals. Feel like there might be excess air. So that's an example for a technique focus. Then you want to go through and sing through a song, like actually apply it in context, and maybe then sing for some fun, just to kind of balance things out. Because sometimes when you're so spotlighted, you get a little bit mental fatigue and you kind of obsess about this little spotlight feature that you're working on. And this gives us a chance to just have some fun. Hello, Miss Ella. Speaking of amazing singers who are very organized and very structured and scheduled and kick butt because of it, Miss Ella Monnery. If you haven't seen her sing, please follow her on all of the socials. She is one of my faves. And shout out, actually, I can see today the comments coming through and stuff. So if you have any questions, please just pop in or say hello to let me know that you're there. And then most importantly, the end of the practice plan, you want to cool down your voice. And then you want to maybe take 20 minutes of vocal rest afterwards, depending on how intensive your vocal workout has been. But I really think it's a great idea to give yourself 20 minutes of vocal rest after any high voice use practice speaking. Like after this, I'll take some time. Okay, so day 17 is something that I mentioned before, and that is a posture check. So I mentioned that really going for a neutral postural position as a framework to support your infrastructure or your instrument is a great idea. Now, it's not about singing like you've got to stick up your butt when you're performing. It's really about, in that practice setting or when you're assessing yourself, that you're making sure that posture or lack of posture isn't a contributing factor. So it's a tool for troubleshooting. Just make sure that your posture is aligned, and you can make sure that you do that by finding the right position for your pelvis, tilting it to the extremes, both forward and backwards, and then finding a midline position. For me, it kind of feels like my bum is tucked under a little bit. And then with the upper body, I like to take a breath in, exhale. You probably can't see this, but my hands are in line with my shoulders. And then I kind of pull my shoulder blades together a little bit. It elevates my chest. And then I keep that position, hold it there as I drop my hands down. And that there, combined with keeping a neutral pelvic position and then lengthening, imagining I have a string through the middle of my head and that my jaw isn't jutting forward or dropping too far back, and you can hear the distortion and the flow of the sound when you do that. So I'm just checking in to make sure that some of my postural habits that aren't so good aren't being overlaid when I'm trying to learn something new. I don't want to work against myself. So I'm making sure my alignment is neutral. That's the start. And I did mention that as part of the practice plan. Then, as I mentioned also as well, one of the things I like to do is check in with my breath, and that's very much tension released focus. So when I'm working with my artists, one of the first things that we do is we test our breath and work out how breath is dynamic and how much air we actually need for some of the tasks that we're doing. A quick 101 is generally less air on the high notes and a little bit more air pressure on the low notes. So you want to consider maybe letting half of your air out before you sing, because quite often we do this and then we hold the breath back before we go into create any sound, and we're actually causing tension. So we're creating a ton of tension. That's an extreme demonstration, what I just did there. We get real good over time to eliminate the sound of the strain, but it's still going on from a muscular perspective. So what you can do just to check in is just take a breath, prepare yourself for singing, and then let half of it out. And that's your starting point right there. And you feel so much more free. There's still heaps of breath for me to speak on before I need to take another breath in. So that's one of the tools. But I also do have some key steps that we use to follow, kind of like a sequence of checking in with ourselves, making sure that we've got 360 degrees of breathing happening. We're allowing our body to work by letting the ribcage expand, making sure we're creating space for when the diaphragm does drop down, we let our belly expand and relax. A tense belly can often cause constriction of the false vocal folds. So that's something that we go through. We go through the physiology of breathing and making sure that we're not getting in our own way with tension. Vocal warm-ups. My favorite way to warm up my voice is to sing through the songs that I'm about to sing at 50%. So you could siren or hum through the song first. So if you're doing Happy Birthday, it could be like, and then you might sing through it in the lightest coordination. So for me, that would be head voice. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Went a little bit of falsetto when I got to those high notes. And then I would jump into running through the song at full voice. Now at that pitch, I won't do it loudly because it'll be about, but then I'll drop the pitch down. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Hopefully I didn't blow your eardrums out. So those would be the stages, and depending on when I checked in with my voice, with my siren, I would determine how many times I might need to siren through the song, how many times I might need to sing through the song at the lightest quality. Or another tool that I use is called myroning, which is where you're essentially sirening a very thin fold, head voice, cry quality coordination, and you are dulling the consonants. So you're dropping the consonants so that you're not tempted to project. So it might sound like this. So you're still mouthing the words so that everything here all kind of gets warmed up, but you're not over-articulating or over-projecting. So that's Myroning. That's a great little ditty that I learned, and I love that one. It's challenging to do, but with a bit of practice you can get there, and that's, for me, singing through the songs that you're about to sing are the best vocal warm-up. Now, in saying that, the having vocalizations like, running scales, all of that is great for ear training, and I highly encourage you to do it. But for the sake of warming up, get your larynx to move in exactly the position or coordination that it's going to move as you're, prior to you actually performing a particular piece. So you're just kind of like walking the route, if you will, before you go for a run of a particular area. That's always a great analogy. So then the next thing is some troubleshooting. Along with the breath, there's also a silent giggle technique to release tension, the false vocal folds. So you've got two sets of vocal folds, false vocal folds, true vocal folds. True vocal folds make the fundamental tone or the sounds, and the false vocal folds kind of live a little just above them, ever so slightly, to the side, and they come in the middle and cover your true vocal folds as a protective mechanism, usually when we do something that's effortful or effort perceived. So like I think about picking something heavy up off the floor, and it kind of sounds like this, and you can feel your abs tense up, and it's kind of like a bearing down sensation. So it's a very primal action designed to help protect our body and also build up a little bit of air pressure underneath those vocal folds. Everything is like constricted. So we don't need any constriction when we're doing things that we perceive to be effortful, for example, like belting, and you want to be able to control them out the way. And a little silent giggle is really great. So the body, again, is amazing because laughter helps to deconstrict. So you just want to sort of hold the feeling of a smile in your mouth and almost like you're about to laugh without suppressing it because you don't want to create tension. And that actually helps to move those false vocal folds out the way. And there are some ways that you can check that in our sessions. Not only do we work with like a little spectrograph, a voice print spectrograph to look at it as we're voicing vowels, but you can do it with some techniques where you're listening to your breathing. And I take my artists through that. And that's a tool that you can check into, troubleshoot if you need it. Now, we're almost there, not too long to go. Singing techniques. So along with, spotlighting things like ear training, it is really good to understand the different voice qualities or voice coordinations that you have available to you when you're singing, and knowing what muscles are working and how to optimally coordinate them. That is a skill, and that is a skill that great singers over time learn. They learn their own voices. They learn techniques that support the ways that they want to sing and to help them to tell their stories and deliver their message and performance as best as possible. And so I highly encourage you to work with a vocal coach or find some singing techniques or a singing program that can help you get some solid singing techniques that make you feel good about your voice, make you feel free and confident. So as a vocal coach, my goal is to offer a singer's toolkit to my artists, and I give them that toolkit. So I show them give them options. And then, in my opinion, it's your job then to make something amazing with it. So I'll help you hone your crafting of the application of the tools. I'll give you the tools, and you can do your best. You do your thing. You make the creative magic happen with those tools. So singing techniques are important. And if you need help, holler at your girl. Go to bignotesgetvotes.com and you can see how to get in touch with me there. Now, last but not least, today's day 22. So I'll run through that again. Day 16 is have a practice plan. Day 17 is learn how to do a posture check for neutral posture. Day 18 is focus on breath management as a constant check-in, but also something if you need to troubleshoot, if you feel that you aren't able to deliver sound in the way that you want, it's really important to check with the breath first, because the breath is the power for the voice. You got the power, the breath is the power, the true vocal folds are the source of the sound, the larynx, and then you've got your filter, your nasal passages and your oral cavity and the vocal tract, basically the space above your larynx, that can help you to filter. So like your own internal mixing desk, your own walk-in mixing desk, to really help you to amplify the good fundamental tones that you're creating when you're making these awesome singing technique, vocal quality choices. Day 19 is vocal warm-up, so making sure your instrument's ready to go. Day 20, checking in with any tension in your larynx, or specifically your false vocal folds, with a little silent giggle. Day 21 is having some singing techniques. And then day 22, put it all together and sing a song. So I encourage you to pick a song a month. What I call it a song study. I have like a song study method where I break it down using what I just said before. Focus on breath, power, source, and filter. A focus on breath, voice quality, or your source quality vocal sound choices, and then filtering. And filtering also includes things like phrasing choices, so your articulation, your projection, anything that's moving, these gorgeous articulators, the teeth, tongue, lips. Yeah, I think that's it, all my articulators. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but for the sake of brevity, let's go. So when you have a song study, you can isolate elements and focus and spotlight on them so that you can really get your head in the song. If it's your own song, you'll really be able to give it life from the ground up and be intentional about what you're trying to say and the ways that you're trying to say it. Breath can be a great tool to help deliver intensity and tension and release, musically I'm talking about, and along with the same with understanding what voice qualities are being used and what emotional weighting they carry naturally. These things can really help, and if you break a song down and really focus on it, that's the best way to unlock it, you know, and unlock your opportunities to deliver it really well. If you're doing a cover, it's a great way of studying other people's styles and potentially how you would like to reinterpret. Would you tell the story in the same way? You know, you have some options. There is nothing wrong with telling the story exactly the same way, but wouldn't it be great to know that you have some tools at your disposal in your singer's toolkit to make some great choices to reinterpret music? And so day 22, which is today, that's the song study. That one there wraps everything up. Now, if you do want help with just specific song studies and performance review, I do offer a video performance review as well, and I will link all of those. They're all linked on the Big Notes Get Votes website. So go there or check the description boxes where you're watching this. And if you have any questions, as always, just yell them out. I haven't seen anybody mentioning anything today, so fingers crossed you're all out enjoying the sun, and you can check after the fact and leave me a comment, and I will go in and check as well, just in case there are comments, but I just didn't see them, and I will reply to you. But yeah, hit me up if you have any questions. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you same time next Wednesday, which is the very last weekly review for the Get Gig Fit 30-Day Action Plan. And then it's May, which is New Zealand Music Month, and I know even though we're here locked down, I still want us to focus on creating performance opportunities. Get your song studies happening. Post some clips on YouTube. Do some live streams. Do some collabs with some peoples. I really want to see a lot of performance happening, and let me know if you need any help with it. Have a great day. Ciao.